Hi, my name is Nairi and I am the adopter of two boys who are now 10 and 11. This is a support channel for anybody who's thinking of adopting, who is going through the process or who has adopted. There's so much on my channel that can help and support you. Today, we're going to be talking about single adopters, and I have actually got in touch with a friend of mine and asked them if they would be happy to share with me. And so I have a number of questions that I'm going to go through. I'm going to actually read verbatim what they've said, and then after each question, we can have a little bit of reflection. So if you're thinking of adopting and you're a single adopter, or you have adopted as a single adopter and you've hit some barriers, some difficulties perhaps, then this video is going to be for you. So let's get on with the questions. The first question that I asked my friend was, what inspired you to become an adopter? I always wanted to be a mum, but for various reasons, it didn't happen naturally. I'd always been auntie to dozens of kids, and it didn't matter to me whether they were genetically related to me, or so I figured adoption would be the way to go. I went to an adoption charity called Home for Good, where they were launching, and it pushed me to get started with the process. But I'm hoping this video today, if you're sat there and you're a single person, male or female, that this video might be something that pushes you to start the process, because there are children out there who need you. The question number 2 that I asked her was, what was the most difficult thing about the process? Having to delve deep into my childhood beliefs, emotions, etc. in the assessment process was really hard. I am naturally a private person and really didn't enjoy talking about some really personal things with a complete stranger, the assessment social worker. During the sometimes 2-hour-long meetings, I also found the family finding process difficult. Deciding which children to express an interest in and which ones to reject was really hard. I'm sure those of us who've actually been through adoption can really relate to some of these things. So obviously this person that I have spoken to here is a friend of mine, and I know her really well, and I know her to be quite shy and very private, and I can see how this would have been a really testing process for her, having to open up about her past. But she's managed to do that, and I think that again, a perception of adoption is that maybe, it needs to be a couple, a family that are really outgoing already, that we have a certain perception about what an adopter might be like. But from this question, you can see that however shy you are, and maybe however difficult your childhood has been, you still have the potential to be an adopter and to be there for children. You can also see how she's reflected on how difficult it was to go through the process of trying to choose a child. And when you are presented with many profiles, this is of course going to be very challenging, because how do you decide? Well, I'm sure if I spoke to her now, she would say to you that when it finally came to the profile of the little girl that she has now, she knew in her heart that it was right for her. And I think you have to trust that in the process. So question number 3. If you could give any advice to would-be single adopters, what would it be? Her answer: make sure that you have a strong and physically close support network. It is impossible to do this completely alone. I have close family by who can support, as well as friends who take her out if I need some time. I would also suggest you stay in touch with people that you do your training with, because these people are going to truly know what you go through. Very easy for us on the outside to look at adopters and think we know what they're going through, but most of the time we don't know what each other are going through. This is the same with any family, adoption or not. We don't always know what people are going through. And I think what my friend is saying here, she has people that she can pick up the phone to, who she can vent, she can cry to if needs be, and they're going to understand. Question number 4. What is the most rewarding thing for you? Watching the progress she has made. Even small things like seeing a genuine smile rather than a fake one that she used to use is rewarding. Also the big things, of course. The first time she called me mummy, teaching her to swim, the hugs and love. Also watching her amazing relationship with our dog. I have just done a video on pet therapy actually, so check it out on my channel. I know it sounds silly, but she really struggled to express her love. But Bella has meant that she can do that now. Isn't that lovely? Like calling her mummy. or of course it could be daddy if you're a single male adopter. And things like having a family pet to bring her out. It's just things that you don't think of, isn't it? And as a single adopter, she's reflecting back on what is working. And question number 5, do you meet with any stereotypes as a single adopter? I thought this was a really important question to ask because I've really wondered this. There's lots of encouragement to stand forward as a single adopter, but when you go through the process, what actually happens? Do people become stereotypical over the fact that you're on your own? Does it give you any restrictions? So this is her answer. I think it was a factor in the family finding process, in that it ruled me out with a few social workers. But I'm not sure that that was a stereotype. I suspect it was a general feeling that the children they were responsible for needed 2 parents. I can't think it's made a difference since though. So I've reflected on this a little bit, and I know what my friend is saying, that she doesn't think it's stereotypical when she's been turned down for certain children, but she thinks it's because a social worker has deemed that this child needs 2 parents. That's interesting, I think. Because I think about the job that she's doing at the moment with this little girl, and I think that she is amazing, actually. And I think that 2 parents could not have done a better job than she has on her own. And I do think that is because she does have a really good network around her to support her when she really needs it. And perhaps stereotype is a strong word, but what I would say to you, single adopter, if you haven't gone through the process yet, if you are turned down for a child, but you think that child is right for you, just challenge it. Just challenge what the reasons are behind that. Question number 6, which has got to be a really important one, or what have been the biggest challenges since adopting as a single person? I think this is going to help you guys. Making home and work happen is a constant challenge. I'm really lucky that I have an understanding employer, because I am frequently having to get to work late or leave early because of issues with my daughter. A few years ago, there was a period of 18 months where I was having to manage daily violent meltdowns, which eventually led me to having to miss work for 3 months. This was really hard on both of us. Now, clearly, you're not necessarily going to have such a challenging situation. You may not have to be off work for 3 months. But I think what to get from this is the fact that sometimes things just take over with adopted children and you have to drop everything, and that actually might be work. So it's really important to get work on side, and important to take this into consideration when you're adopting. So if you have a very challenging job, something that's going to take a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of commitment from you, you may just have to rethink before you adopt. Or if you're currently adopting and you're struggling with your work commitments, you're struggling to cope with your adopted child, take some time out and think about whether there are any changes that you can make. Number 7, what behaviours do you feel are the most difficult to deal with? Probably the anger and violence she can sometimes have towards me. It's really hard not to take it personally. And it's also sometimes a challenge to keep us both safe. Also, her constant need for control is really hard. She always wants things her way, and fights against any attempts to impose rules or routines. I can vouch for that. I have that same situation at home. It is tiring. It's so tiring when you are trying to do what you think is right as a parent and your adopted child is always challenging against that. Those of you who've adopted, single or otherwise, will know that sometimes adopted children can pose some real challenges when it comes to behaviour management. And I think it's comforting to hear from a single adopter that she has those challenges, so you're not alone. As you will see on some of my videos, I talk about keeping it consistent, not giving in as much as possible, and trying to be the one in control with these children. There's a video on my channel all about manipulation and control. Seek it out and see if it helps you if you're in that situation. Would you adopt again knowing what you know now? I was kind of meaning by this question, would you go back over what you've done? Would you still adopt? So I know it's been tough for this lady, but she was taking it, would you then adopt another child? So it's kind of similar in a way. I don't think she would manage to share me, as much as she keeps asking for a brother or sister. But despite everything that's happened, I wouldn't go back and change anything. And I think for those of us who have adopted, however difficult the path might be that we've chosen, in reality, we wouldn't go back and change anything. In reality, we know that adopted children have changed us for the better, have given us a new perspective on life. And so I hope that you found this helpful, this question and answer session. Apologies for not having this lady on camera, but most people don't enjoy being in front of the camera. And if you are an adopter and you're struggling, I hope it's encouraged you. If you're a single person thinking about adoption, I hope it's inspired you. If you've enjoyed my video, then please take the time to subscribe and look across my channel on all the different playlists. Hope you've enjoyed staying with me today.